So, wow, it's great to be back at Warwick, and it's also great to be here at the TEDx, which is pretty awesome. But I have to tell you, when they asked me to do a TEDx speech, I figured, you know, I got to do something special for you guys, right? Special. But you know, this is tricky. This is tricky because you want to do something memorable. Think back for a moment to all the speeches you have ever heard that you can remember. Right? I was thinking back, I got to do something good, and I'm thinking back, I can't remember most of the speeches I've ever heard in my lifetime. And I think back even to big ones like, graduation from college, don't remember. High school graduation, don't remember, which was particularly embarrassing for me because at my high school graduation, I was the speaker. Bad news. So I figured, what am I going to do? And I thought, well, I couldn't remember speeches, but I could remember all the people that I've drawn over the years. And I remember one person in particular that actually left a resounding implant on my brain, and I'm just going to draw her again here for you guys, just to kind of bring her back and come back to life here. So, 12 years old, music class, St. Thomas the Apostle School. This is a convent school, okay? We had this nun who had a habit, had a practice of singing with her eyes closed during class. So I figured one day I'm going to capture her doing this because you couldn't beat it. So I'm sitting in class, and I see, at first I draw her little kind of pug nose, and her eyes sort of squinted shut like this, and the curly hair peeking out from underneath her habit that struck way down like this. And then I drew her mouth the size of a battleship, okay? Tongue sticking out like this, singing away, just like this, having a great time. And I did this really kind of for myself. And it started off as just, this little exercise when the girl sitting next to me grabbed the drawing off my desk and had a little giggle, passed around to the boy next to her, and soon the cartoon was circulating around the class. And in moments, I was a star, okay? Peer affirmation at age 12 was incredible until the nun got a hold of the cartoon. And she did something, of course, you wouldn't expect to hear to do today. She brought me by the ear down to the boys' room and made me take a bite out of a bar of soap. I kid you not. And she said, "Don't you draw another cartoon like that again." I've been doing them ever since. Ever since. And I found, actually, that nun turned out to be the best teacher that I have ever had because she taught me two very important lessons. First, caricature is a very interesting thing. It's a magical tool, particularly for those under the thumb of authority. They revel in the magic of the cartoon. But those on the sharp end of the caricatures don't always respond in the same way. They see it as a formidable, powerful weapon to be reckoned with. So this difference between magic and power is what I want to talk about today, the magic and power of caricature. And I'm going to show you some examples about it. Now I need the clicker. Can we have the clicker? Thank you. All right, first one. So in my time with The Economist and other publications, I've published over 6,000 cartoons and published over 140 covers for different magazines, and I've been evaluating faces for a long time, and I thought I should start with my early work to give you guys some idea of where we are. So here we are. This is Abraham Lincoln on the left there, and at this age, at age like 6, everybody's drawing. It's so interesting. Everybody's drawing. By age 12, somehow a lot of people drop off for different reasons. But when you're a young kid, you see the world simply, and these very simple lines and depictions actually kind of gets to the heart of the characters, what good caricature is about. But fast forward to my college years, when I was at university, that's when caricature started to kick in and something that I wanted to learn and master. But there's no courses in caricature, no lessons. You only learn from practice and looking at other people. So I used to go on the streets of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and draw people. Later, I came over to England right after graduation, and I was drawing caricatures in Brighton, and I was drawing caricatures in Leicester Square, and later in Oxford Street. And all this time, I'm seeing hundreds of faces come by in front of me. And I'm learning about the different shapes. about the structure of the nostrils, the ears, evaluating all these various different pieces. But I have to tell you, I was a lousy businessman. Because the guys who do this want to make money, make a living out of the street stuff, they got to knock it out in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. They get an equation down, bang, 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 throw a tennis racket in your hand you off, and off you go. I was taking 45 minutes. Because what I wanted to do was to capture the personality of the person, something that goes beyond those physical features, that captures something special. And I thought I was crazy until I found a quote that's lived with me ever since. Annibale Carracci, Italian Renaissance painter, once said, "A good caricature is more true to life than reality itself." And so ever since then, I've been on this journey on trying to find what's magic about the personality in caricature and in distortion. But then I also learned something else, that you start with a normal face, and then you want to blow it out a little bit. You're riffing. You're expanding on the face. And then I discovered that over time, caricature is to portraits what jazz is to music. You start with a core melody, and then you go off a whole time kind of keeping a reference to the central core, but at the same time trying to give people a new view and a newly informed and bright and hopefully entertaining way to assess this core thing. So caricature has been a magical, interesting thing for me during this time. So when I went into the world of being a cartoonist as a profession, now I had the opportunity of going beyond drawing ordinary citizens. And now I was beginning to draw the powerful. Those people, this time I started with, Margaret Thatcher and other people of that era, including, there's Ronald Reagan on the right. And who's the guy on the left? Anybody? Gorbachev, very good. 10 points for Gryffindor over here. So these characters were big, big personalities, and they were also interesting to caricature. So I also found that not only could I draw their faces, but now I could dress them up in different things. I could kind of change and make a little more fun of them. It was really kind of interesting. I could put them in different clothes. I could put men in dresses, which is a very popular theme in British humor. I could even, put them in not many clothes at all. In this case, Margaret Thatcher and Sir Geoffrey Howe. So I was looking back to these cartoons, these early caricatures. And what's interesting, too, looking back, this is Hosni Mubarak, which I did in the mid-'80s. And so I've done hundreds of important politicians from around the world and witnessed them evolve over time, and their faces will change over time, including this clown, Colonel Gaddafi, who's never seen a uniform he didn't like. So, So the thing is that the caricatures turned out to be something that was gone beyond just the dealing of the face, but now could kind of tell stories as well. And they could reflect on the personality and the politicians of what they do and their context in that time, but also their context in history. Cartoons I'm getting asked for my cartoons to be appearing in encyclopedias and history books and school books, because people are finding that these are interesting ways to capture the news and the important elements of the day in these frozen little nuggets that reside in a special part of the brain, much more powerful than a photograph would do at the same time. And speaking of story, I love this cartoon because this was about how Hurricane Katrina was not only destroying the Bush presidency, Louisiana, but was also destroying the presidency. And it ran on the cover with no words, just the picture by itself. So now I was finding a way that I wanted to use caricatures to help inform political cartoons. I consider myself a political cartoonist, a kind of a visual columnist, if you like, using pictures and humor and satire to get a point across. And the caricatures are great because they have faces. Faces, since the moment we're born, our eyes are fixed on faces, trying to read faces. We're trying to figure out when we see somebody, anybody, do I like them? Are they friendly? Do they threaten me? What kind of personality are we? Our brains are incredible hard drives, and our eyes are the scanners. And we go over, and rapidly we process this information in our brain and try to assess it. And this is a skill set that we evolve throughout our whole life. And one of the things about caricature in a cartoon, if I can bring it in, your eyes are automatically drawn in. And to quote 19th century British philosopher Mary Poppins, A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. So when you have a good caricature, you pull people in, it allows you then to get your point across in your cartoon. So, and some good caricatures, you can almost hear the people speaking, like this one here. That's good, Tony. Now, repeat after me. Make my day so damn. So the other thing about caricatures, I find that particularly during election season, this is the one time when cartoonists and caricatures have, I guess, more higher visibility than normal, because people are learning about the characters that they're going to vote for, and the caricatures have a great way of helping define who the people are. I want you to draw attention to Barack Obama here specifically. You know, 2 years before the election, he was elected president, nobody knew who he was. He comes into office, he comes during the election, and this is the image of him, right? Guy with a 1,000-watt smile. He's got, his teeth, there's nothing in nature that has the color of teeth that he does, all right? They're brighter than these lights. And he was always upward looking, and he's smiling, and this is the image the world had of Barack Obama. Now, 2 years later, this is the way that people see Barack Obama. It's like this. Am I right? Now the weight of the presidency, the gravity and gravitas combined, kind of working on the face, and it weighs him down, and he will continue to evolve, and my caricatures, too, will evolve over time. Here's an example. Now, this is what he looked like when he started in office, okay? First 100 days. Second 100 days. 500 days. 1,000 days. And now next year, during election time, this is what we can kind of expect. Right. But it's not only him. It also happens here. This is David Cameron. We all remember what he looked like during the election, correct? This is what he looked like, nice and clean and smooth and everything. This is what he looks like now. Am I right? Am I right? Okay. So in addition to doing the caricatures I've always done, now with new technology, I've been experimenting in 3D caricatures. Because again, the magic, the power of the caricature. Can you imagine making it large 3D and making it move, making it talk? Oh my gosh. So I did life-size version, sculptures first of the main characters, eventually turning into 3D characters. This is Hillary Clinton here, John McCain. And a couple of years ago, I actually had the real privilege of doing a national tour in the U.S. with a group called Second City. It's an improv comedy troupe, and 1,000-people auditoriums. And part of it, I would do a performance with these two guys. They would debate amongst themselves. We would take questions from the audience, and then I could even ask them questions, including I might, here's an example. I ask Senator McCain, Sarah Palin's running for president. You had her. Do you think that she's qualified to be president, Senator?
Listen, my friends, Sarah Palin is qualified to be president. She has ridden caribou to hunt polar bears with bazookas. She has caught Chinook salmon blindfolded with her teeth. No community organizer in Chicago has ever done that, right?
All right, give it up for John McCain. All right. There you go, Senator. Good job. Thank you very much. All right, so that's the kind of magical side. That's the side of the artist drawing. I mean, it really is a fascinating process. And one of the things that I've discovered in this business of drawing is that not every good artist, great artist, can do caricature. It's like asking a concert violinist to be a jazz musician. It doesn't mean that they're a lousy musician. They're not wired in that sort of same way. Caricature, the improvisational nature of it is quite different. And curiously enough, I've been asked to be part of a research where people are going to be scanning my brain at Johns Hopkins University while I draw caricatures to see how the various different things go. So it's really kind of an interesting, unique skill set. But now on to the powerful part of caricature. Now, I have to tell you guys, I was watching you all before, coming in and out in the hallway there, and I noticed something. Everybody here has got a face. And you can imagine for a moment that if I or any of my caricature colleagues had the opportunity to take your face, pull it apart, and reassemble it under our control, you're a powerful person. And I think we can all kind of agree that, it takes a kind of a mature person to weather a withering caricature. Am I right? I mean, I know, for example, that I have scores of caricatures done of me by my cartoon colleagues from around the world. And when I look at them, I've been known to weep openly, for hours on end like a baby, looking at these drawings. But the idea is that being on the receiving end is not always easy. And you can imagine as a result, if you're a public figure or a politician and seeing your face abused, in newspapers and on film, boy, that can make you feel pretty uncertain. I mean, who likes to be humiliated in public, right? But you can also imagine if they have their hands in the levers of power, the temptation to stop that. Correct? Now, what we also forget, it's easy for us to forget in this room, that in 2/3 of the world, we couldn't even have this meeting, right? Police would march in, you guys would be arrested, I'd disappear, not to be seen again. And the crime? Laughing at our own head of state and having pictures up there like this. For a time, I was president of an international human rights group dedicated to cartoonists. Seems crazy, but in other parts of the world, we've had cartoonists who have been threatened, jailed, tortured, and murdered because of their cartoons. Something that we take very much for granted here, this notion of freedom of expression. And cartoons, I think, caricatures, take a very special place there. I like to say, talking about maturity, that it's society. You can judge the maturity of a society, of a democracy, by the amount of satire and caricature it can endure. And that this freedom of expression, actually, this time as we talk, not that many people on the planet have it right now. In the spectrum of mankind's experience on this whole planet, during the pantheon of the existence of mankind, it's been a virtual nanosecond that this freedom of expression is allowed. And it's something that we should value, something that we should fight for. So, with that in mind, I'm going to go back to my drawing table, and I'm going to draw to a conclusion. And this is the bit that I hope you guys remember, okay? All right, so when you guys head out of here, whether you're back at home tonight, maybe it's tomorrow morning, and you're looking in the mirror, okay? And maybe this could even take place, 5 years from now when you have the opportunity to look in the mirror. I want you to think about me. And I want you to think about all my other caricature colleagues around the world. And I want you to think what we might do with your face. All right, so we might take your ears and we might blow them up. And we would, clearly when you get somebody drawing and you're thinking about somebody drawing you, you think about all your kind of perceived weaknesses, those areas of insecurity, of, what your appearance looks like. And in fact, one of the things that I learned over years of drawing people in the street, I believe that most people honestly don't really know what they look like. In some ways, they think they're much, actually everyone I think is much more attractive than they give credit to themselves for, because they only see, when you look at yourself in the mirror, the most worst features. But still, now we have a cartoonist who is looking at these things, and he's going to abuse you, okay? And not only is he going to abuse you, imagine for a moment that this cartoonist might be in front of several hundred people in Warwick University at a TEDx, and he's also drawing your face in front of everybody, all right? Add to that fact that your face after this is being filmed, and it's going to be put on the internet, and it's going to be seen by millions of people around the world, okay? And you're going to see this caricature, and people are going to laugh, and people are going to laugh. And what are you going to do? You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel frustrated, and you're going to feel almost fearful by this. And then I want you to think this. I want you to feel proud. I want you to feel grateful that you live in a society where a cartoonist can do just that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.